Hello and welcome back to the garage. So today we've got a project in store for you. We're going to take the tub that we've been working on. We're going to strip off the paint on the back, and we're going to try to fill in some of the low spots in that weld. So I'll flip the camera around and show you real quick. So here is our tub. This is the rear passenger side panel here. And if you recall from other videos, I had cut out this piece here. So you see the weld running all the way along here, then it runs back up over. We cut this piece out because it was completely damaged, bent up beyond repair, and welded a new piece in, and we just butt welded this all the way around. And it's not smooth steel because it was damaged. The tub was damaged. I didn't cut it down far enough. So we're going to try to strip off the paint here. There's primer on it, you see it, just to keep it from rusting, but strip off the rest of this paint. We're going to come down here too, and I have filled in these holes where the tire carrier stop was, the tailgate stop was. So I'm going to try to flatten all of that out as well and not put a wave in it. There's a dip right here, and there's just not a whole lot I can do about that without cutting out the panel. That's where the tire carrier, the tailgate, when it opened, hit this piece, and it would bend it in or bend it out depending on how it was actually set. So here it was bending it in on this side and pulling this side out, so it was twisting it this way. I have tried my best to get as much of that out as I can. I don't know if you can see, if I get the camera just exactly right, you can see kind of where there's a dip here. I expect like right in here is the deepest part. That's not great. I held a straight edge up to it, you probably see it better. In fact, let me go get a straight edge. All right, so we got a straight edge here, and this is just a metal ruler. I used it as a square, but I have since lost the square. So if I hold that up right there, you can see, I'll put my finger behind it, you can see that it is not straight all the way down. I'll try to get it even more obvious there. So you can see there's some considerable gap in that. I'm gonna try to bang that out a little bit before we get in there, see if I can really show you. Yeah, so you see my finger back there. That is a considerable gap. I'm gonna get in there and see if I can bang that out a little bit more. There's some supports in there. I'm not sure how much I'll be able to do. Got a kind of the same problem from top to bottom here. But we will work it out. This is where the tail light, the wiring harness comes through, and there's the bolts for the tail light. We're going to leave that. We're going to use it, but we're going to try to get this a little bit flatter than it currently is. And you see, that's probably about the worst. That is, you see the reflection of my fingers on the other side. That is not ideal. So we'll see what we can do and take it from there. We'll carry you guys along for the ride. All right, so the last time that I did this, which has been a lot of years ago, what I got is this paint remover. I'll show you right here. Paint, an epoxy remover. So we're gonna put that on. I'm gonna paint it on with a brush because I found that actually works the best in the last time I did it. I gotta get my hammer out and try to straighten this up a little bit more than it is, but you know, ideally we'll get close. I know it's not going to be perfect. I don't know that it has to be, just on where it sits on the Jeep. It'll be behind the tire carrier that I'm going to put on, or behind that tail light, so you're not going to notice it tremendously. And I'm going to just show you, all Jeeps, all the YJs, almost all of them have this same problem. So if I go back and look at the other YJ here real quick, the old one, the one that I'm doing, I'll just show you real quick. So here's the back, the tail light's still on, but here are the two items, two holes. you can feel right here that this has the same problem. It's dented in as well. It's not, maybe not quite as bad as the other, but cutting this whole panel out and welding it in, just not something I really want to do. But they all have a similar problem where that tailgate bracket is that just stops the tailgate from running into and crushing the tail light. It's just real thin metal right there, and it bends when it hits it. So the new tire carrier will be mounted on the bumper, and I won't have that problem, but I got to deal with it here. So we'll see how it goes. I'll show you as we make progress along on this. So we got the chemical stripping on there. It'll take 20 minutes or so for it to really kind of peel the paint up. You can see it's kind of already started. Some of that is beginning to peel right in here. Just a note, don't touch that stuff. You notice that I wore the gloves. I remember that from the last time we did this years and years ago, that you get it on your skin, you're gonna regret having gotten it on your skin. Make sure you wash it off as quickly as you can. I'll probably end up having to do this a couple of times. This paint stripper is pretty old, and I don't know how well it's gonna do. It's doing some, we'll see. So stay tuned. All right, it's been actually a few hours now. I figured I'd give you guys an update. I'm gonna turn this around in just a minute and show you the progress. So the paint stripper that I have leaves a lot to be desired, just to be completely honest. I think I'm gonna, before I do the rest of it, I think I'm going to look at alternatives. I could have the whole thing sandblasted. I painted the bottom of it. I could paint it again if I needed to. I'll probably end up having to paint some of it anyway. I don't know. We'll give it some thought on alternatives. But for now, I think well, you'll see it here in just a second. But the paint stripper leaves a lot to be desired. I think it's loosened it enough that I can hit it with the wire brush and knock the majority of the remainder off. You're supposed to put it on and let it kind of peel up and then wipe it off while it's still wet. I think I want to just let it dry, and after it's blistered, let it dry, and then I will hit it with a wire brush and be done with it. I hit it with a wire brush, but I'm not going to do that while it's wet, because I do not want to get that all over everything, let alone myself, and it's not real comfortable. So we'll let it sit like that for at least several hours. It'll probably take a good solid day to dry. So I may be back at this tomorrow, but let me show you what it's done so far. All right, so I wheeled it out into the daylight a little bit, really earlier, just so that the sun could help hit it a little bit. So you see, I've got a lot of the paint off there on the corner and the top rail, but the primer that I had painted on there doesn't really want to come off for some reason. It didn't blister up hardly at all. The black original paint, in some places it's blistered, in other places it's barely even bubbled, if at all. And I wiped it off and put an extra coat on there just to be sure that I wasn't missing it. You absolutely want to goop this stuff on, and maybe since it's vertical, maybe that's part of the problem. But just kind of zoom in here a little bit so you can see. So there's some really all of that looks like it's just kind of speckled. That's blistered, but it's really lightly blistered. I mean, there are spaces on here where it really, if I go down here to the bottom, that's really blistered, and that's what you want to see. So I can just basically wipe that off. But as I go back up, some of these areas, the blisters are really, really tiny, which I guess means the paint adhered really well to the metal in the original paint there. I don't know, maybe it's tough cutting through the clear coats that are there. Like I said, I'm gonna have to do some more research, look at some alternatives. I really just wanted to get this back corner clean so that I could work on the Bondo today, but that doesn't look like that's gonna work out just from timing. So we're gonna let this dry. We're gonna come back and hit it with a wire brush, and we'll try to get a shot of that before we put any Bondo on it, just so you can get an idea of the finished stripping there. If you're gonna do it with this particular stuff here, which I don't know that I'm gonna recommend that. Like I said, I'm gonna look at some alternatives, but plan for it to be several hours, not several minutes. I've read online where some of them take 20 minutes or so. This one, we're working on 3 hours and we're still not there yet. More to come.